But we so funny.
I know.
I also don't have the extended Zoom, but
oh, like it cuts you off.
I don't know if it does. If it does, we'll just come back in and I'll just edit it. Not too worried.
Cool.
So this is actually the first interview I've done since season 2. So it's like been some time. And usually though, what I do is very, like when I get featured on someone else's podcast, they'll send me a detailed list in advance.
Yeah, I don't do that on mine.
Yeah.
Like, okay. Shoot the shit. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's usually how it goes here. And I feel like we're going to have similar tones to it. It's just like where it goes, where it goes. I feel like there's going to be so much to talk about between you and I.
Yeah.
Like I wrote down some things and I'm like, even this morning I was like, oh, there's this and there's this. So there's so many things. So we'll kind of see where it goes. But yeah. Okay. I'm going to take one more breath and then.
Yeah. Is there anything that you like? I'm pretty open book. But is there anything that you want us to like not super venture into? Okay, cool. Yeah.
You can say, do whatever you want here.
Nice. Amazing.
That's also a part of this is like, it's so funny. I've been talking about like sex and stuff for so long, but I just feel like this is a new level of openness for myself in terms of like either the public eye or how comfortable I am speaking about it. And so it's like kind of exciting.
Yeah. Oh, I feel honored like to be a part of that. I know that kind of like episode energy where you're just like, this is a big one.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah.
Yeah. Dang. My photo shoot for this was pretty nerve-wracking, even though it wasn't too crazy, but it's just so interesting what these things can do to you.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, okay. So a few things that I wanted to touch on, just like victimhood in general, and your story we'll talk about and I'll ask about, and then we might want to touch on like censorship on like the meta that's happening now. Deeply ingrained like behaviors and practices. And I think that, we have similar conversations about like patriarchy and stuff. And then I'll have some questions for you kind of at the end, just of like, what do you want to say to the world? And then also I wanted to tap into the restorative justice a bit, out of sheer curiosity for my personal. So those are kind of areas. Is there anything that you want to kind of bring into this that I can?
I guess I'm curious to know like what, maybe this will just naturally unfold, but when you're like, you can share your story, is there like a specific angle of it that you're like this thing? Like some people are like the justice piece. Some people are like this sexual reclamation piece. Some people are like,
I just want you.
Cool.
So to me, I guess, every day, every moment kind of influences where we're at. So wherever you are at today and what you're focusing on is, and what you think is important to share, I think would be brilliant.
Yay. Okay.
Okay. I'll do like a little intro and then we can get in, and feel free to like have water. I don't even care. I like most of my podcast episodes for season 2 were like by a river, and I was like, too bad. Fuck this. Just kidding.
I love that. Yeah.
Amazing. And if I miss anything, please feel free to let me know. But okay, we'll get started. Here's my sign. Rebecca, we're starting. We're editing. Oh my God. Wow, I'm so excited. Okay. Hello, everybody. We are back with the Unintentional Porn Star podcast. And today, is it Marlee?
Yeah.
I'm going to do that again because I was like, oh shit, pretty sure it's Marlee. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to notice that. Oh my God, there's so many things happening in my body right now.
Do you want to do something? Like, do you want to like shake it out for a second? What do you need?
I need a fucking hug.
I'm going to hug through the screen.
Hey. Yeah. Okay, we'll try that again. All right. Hey, everybody. We are here with the Unintentional Porn Star podcast, and today we have Marlee. with us. Marlee is a sensuality coach and advocate. She runs an amazing podcast called The Sensual Revolution. I'm so freaking pumped to have Marlee here. So a bit of a backstory too. Marlee and I met basically online. People sort of sent us to each other being like, hey, check this person out. Hey, check this person out. And here we are. And for us recording, it's November 11th, which is 11/11. And I'm super into that shit. So, oh shit, meant to be. So welcome, Marlee. And you're welcome. If there's anything about yourself and what you're working on that you would love to share with the audience.
Yeah. What I'm working on, I guess my whole life is like super dedicated to sensual reclamation. And I feel like I really like this line lately of like, you know, like, what's the fucking line? It's like tending to our nervous systems as much as we do our justice systems, and like realizing how that's all connected, and like sensual reclamation on an embodied level is not separate from on a systemic level. So that's kind of what my work is all about. So on an embodied level, that looks like me working as a coach and doing a lot of somatic healing practices. I have a program called Sensual Wholeness Academy with women from literally all over the world who are like reclaiming sensuality, feeling beautiful, safe, powerful in their bodies, all these things. I'm sure we'll get more into that. And on a systemic level, it looks like me advocating for new fucking ways of dealing with sexual harm and pain in our world, and like advocating for restorative justice and doing speaking around that.
Yeah, that, like, first of all, we need you. Thank you. And another note too, I messaged Marlee before we started, and I said, you know, I'm going through a lot right now. So to share with the audience is I myself am going through closing my case. I have decided, I'm emotional about it. I have decided to dissolve my case. I might cry. We're good. Is that I can't hold on to the energy of the case anymore. It puts me into severe depression. It messes with my view on sexuality for myself. Like, I have just been, for 8 years since this started, and 3 years since I started the justice journey, is like, oh my God, I have been severely fucked for so long. So as well, recently, there was a huge sexual violation. So I messaged lovely Marlee, and she, of course, you're holding space for me. So thank you. But yeah, we need you. Like, there's a lot of these things that are very real. They're happening right now. These conversations are increasing. And from my perspective, from my journey, it's very awkward right now. And it's hard. And the victims are the one to get slammed from personal experience and my personal opinion, sure, but like, whoa. So thank you for all of your work that you're doing. And like, I could cry because I'm so grateful, and because we need all of this work. And I'm excited to step in ways as well, more and more every day. Like, I don't know for you, Marlee, but for me, this is a lifelong commitment. This continues forever.
Yeah, 100%. And I think the powerful thing about it, and like, thank you so much for sharing. I'm loving you, and just with you in those feels, like different stories, but similar feels and experiences. Yeah, I think the more I share about this too, the more I connect with people. And I hear, like, once I shared my story, which we'll get into, like with the media, I was receiving like hundreds of DMs, probably thousands now, from survivors and people from all sides, like people, you know, allies and not allies and trolls and everything. But it just, every time I hear someone else's story, I'm like, this is fucking important. Like, it's an honor for me to pull out my mic today and talk about this, because it's like, it's so important.
Yes. Yeah. And I mean, actually, what I'd love to hear. So I've been following you for a little bit now, for quite some time. Time is like, what is time? But you know, I actually myself don't know your full story. Like, I know what you're advocating for, and I am so on board with you and follow you all the time. But could you share any details, whatever side you want, whatever you think is pertinent in what you're feeling today, like what your story is and how, you know, you've kind of ended up at this place of helping others.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. So I, like all of us, grew up in, you know, rape culture, and definitely just was always really disempowered and disconnected around sexuality. I have a lot of language for like where that came from now, but I obviously didn't growing up. I also grew up in like competitive dance land and body image issues.
How are we
like
same person? What?
I know. I'm like, we are like so meant to connect. But yeah, so I experienced a lot of like rape culture and things like this, but had really deemed that normal. I was like, this is, and like body shaming. I was like, this is fine. Like disordered eating, like we all have this, it's fine. Like I didn't question it at all. And it wasn't until I experienced like a pretty violent rape in 2016 that I just like floodgates burst open, like felt all of it. Like it was just like, oh my God, like what the fuck is our world? How are we treating each other like this? And Trump got elected a month after that rape. And
God.
It was such a like feeling of global hopelessness. I was like, love has lost on the planet. Like that is how it felt. Yeah. So I was already passionate about making impact in the world. I was already studying social work, and I had spent that summer living on like an ashram, like a spiritual center. Like, okay, I don't know what my 21-year-old self was doing, but I was, you know, the universe brought me there. Yes. So I had really like spent the summer just like meeting, it was mostly women on that ashram. And I was like meeting a lot of women, mostly 60 years old and up, telling me their life stories and why they're now living on a healing center, which, as you can imagine, like there's a lot of stories of abuse and loss and different things. And so when I got home that summer and I was ready to continue with social work, I was like, this is it. Like, this is the thing that I care about. And this is what I want to dedicate my life to. And I was about to plan my very first workshop on like body image and offer it to my dance team. And I sent out an email about it, starting to plan. And then that rape happened like 1 week after I got home, which is so
sorry, by the way. Fuck.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah. So that was like, okay, pause that plan. Like I just totally had to focus on me being okay. Fell into like super deep depression, PTSD, realizing that like mind over matter is not always a thing that we can or should do. And I also literally Googled, like I told my roommate, like I got home, I told my roommate what happened. And we literally Googled, what do you do after rape? And I was in such shock. And it was like, go to the hospital and then report to a police officer. And I didn't have any like moment of, you know, like, does that feel right for me? It was just like, this is,
oh my gosh, yes.
Yeah. It's just like, this is what you do. So I reported, and like, little did I know that that was me consenting, like quote, quote, consenting to a 3-year punitive process, where we don't have any freedom. We don't have any. Yeah. I remember like getting to court to preliminary trial. So that's the one where like they see if there's enough evidence to go to a full out criminal trial. So I remember getting to preliminary trial 2 years after I reported, which is a long time, right? Like these things are so slow, and
it's hard in that. Yeah.
I think that I hear the language a lot of like, oh, courts re-traumatizing for victims. I'm like, I would straight up say it's abusive.
Yes. Yes. Oh my gosh. I related my case to abusive relationship.
Yeah. Oof, chills. Yeah. Yeah. It's so real. Like so that one thing they said to me was like, you know, your closest friend is a witness in this case, so you can't talk to her about this experience at all.
I know. You're like, wait a minute. What?
I'm like, okay, so you want me to go through this alone? Sure. And then it was like, if you refuse to answer any questions, you could be deemed non-cooperative and you could be charged.
Yes. And you're responsible for like their payments as well. And you're like, excuse me?
It's so backwards, and it's so in opposition to our healing. And at the same time, like that wasn't even my focus. My focus was like surviving, right? I was like, I'm not in a good place. Like I was really, really like, I was considering taking my life at one point. Like I just needed to focus on healing.
Yeah.
And meanwhile, this court thing was happening, and I didn't know about restorative justice yet. Like I didn't know about restorative justice until recently. But I was like, well, I don't want nothing.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what I mean? And I'm like being fucking mindful too, because I'm just like, I imagine this is like such a sensitive conversation for you right now.
It's okay. I walked in knowing we were going here, and this is healing too. Don't
worry. Yeah.
Go for it.
But yeah, I was like, I don't want nothing. And that's pretty much why I was going through court. It was like, it's either this or nothing.
Yes.
And it wasn't until I was subpoenaed for the criminal trial. So now it had been 3 years. I had really focused on my healing. I was like actually getting to a place now where I was like feeling so much more empowered. I literally went on like a worldwide healing tour, trying all the like modalities, and like it was like a whole thing. I like got into tantra. I was like living on communes. I was like doing just all the things like witch and coven shit. Like somatic healing became really big in my life. And so it kind of became like my whole world was about healing. Now I was still studying social work, but now I was like, okay, I can come back to that mission of like helping other women and non-binary people. And I feel like fired up about that. And so I started offering like retreats. And I just remember like, I also published a book. I also published a book that was like literally, I called it PTSD vomited onto paper. Because I literally like, these were just things that I wrote in my journal in the months after rape. And I wasn't ever going to share them. But then this was like pre-Me Too movement era too. Like then I realized like every time I shared with someone, they would say Me Too, or they would just like be like, wow, I can relate, or this is healing or whatever. So I was like, okay, like meaning making is so important, like impact and like creating something out of something so destructive is like super important. So did that as well. And then, I got subpoenaed for the criminal trial, and I was just like, what? Like, why am I doing this? Like, why the fuck? Why am I going to go back to court, which is so detrimental for my mental, emotional health, fight for something that I don't even believe in, because I don't believe that like either acquittal, which is the most common thing, like perpetrators getting off with nothing at all. I don't believe that helps anyone. And I also don't believe that incarceration is necessarily the most helpful thing. And like, we know that recidivism rates are so high, and that prison is like literally combines all the factors that lead to violence. So like the biggest drivers of violence are shame, isolation, and exposure to violence. And so prison's just like a pit of all the things that cause more violence. So I was just like, where are we going with this? Like, so I got subpoenaed, and I was like, I'm going to drop the charges. Like that. I was just like, I'm not doing this. I don't believe in this. I'm going to drop the charges. And that felt very painful. That felt very like unresolved. And, I said to a friend, I like sat down with my friend, and I was like, if this was my world, we wouldn't handle this like medieval patriarchal Catholic people in costumes in a courtroom. We'd like sit down like human beings and like cry and rage. And I would like ask the questions I need to ask. And like, he would be supported and resourced in actual rehabilitation. but I held that vision and I deemed it so delusional because it's so far from what we see. And my friend said to me, like, so make it happen. And the moment she said that, I was like,
oh my God.
Holy shit. Like, I was like, I've never considered that. Like, I was just like, I had just judged it so much. And I was just like, right. So that was like the catalyst. And I started researching, and that's when I found restorative justice. And I was like, wow, this is basically the name for what I've been wanting. And it has a history and a lineage. And like, I was just like, holy shit. So I found a lawyer at that point, and we kind of marched into the prosecutor's office, and we're like, this is what we want. Long story short, there was like 2 prosecutors in the room, and one of them was like, oh honey, like, do you have Stockholm syndrome? Like, this is not how things work. Rape is that. Yeah.
Oh God.
She actually literally said, so this was in 2019 now, she literally said, you know, with the Me Too movement, people want to see rapists locked up for longer amounts of time, so we can't do this. And I was like, I don't think the point of the Me Too movement is for you to like silence the survivor's voice.
Right? Oh,
literally. The opposite. But I also understand, like, we're products of our environment, you know? And then thank freaking heavens, there was another prosecutor in the room named Kara, who's like a dear friend of mine now. She's so fucking cool. And she was like, hold on, like, Marlee, like, what is your like dream for a justice outcome? And I shared what I wanted. And she was like, yeah, basically, like, we need this. She's like, I've been in the system for 20 years. And every time I walk into a courtroom, victims traumatized, perpetrator usually gets off, or like I said, they're incarcerated, they come out, they commit more violence. Who's winning?
Yes.
So she was like, yeah, like, as someone in the system, I know we need change. So thank God for her. Like, they started kind of fighting for the case for a few months. I was like, I don't know what's going to happen. And then eventually I got a call from my lawyer, and he was like, that one, like Kara, that one prosecutor, like, stuck her neck out and fought for this. And like, this is going to happen.
Wow.
My assailant started therapy right away for like 7 months. And then we met in a restorative justice circle.
Holy shit.
Yeah.
Holy shit.
I could just keep going.
I mean, yeah. Like, how the fuck did that feel? First of all, what the heck?
Wow. Yeah. So it was definitely like the most intense thing ever, and also the hardest thing ever, and also the most healing and empowering thing ever.
I think at this point right now, it's been 8 years since it's happened. It's been 3 years. I just let my case down. Like, and I'm a fiery woman. Like, I would have to actually have people there to like make sure I don't lash out on him.
But I mean, they are like, this is what, and like, we had mediators in the room, right? And we had restorative justice, to define it real quick, is like, it is a version of justice that prioritizes repair, like repairing harm over punishment. So instead of the focus being like, something bad happened, who do we need to punish? It's like, something bad happened, someone was harmed, what can we do to like help and heal? Which is so human. It's rooted in Indigenous, Jewish, Mennonite cultures. And so my case was the first time this happened in North America through the courts. It's like, yeah.
Getting the way.
So definitely one of those, like, you never know where life will take you. But yeah, like, it was really intense. Like, we got into the room that day. It also takes a community oriented approach. So it acknowledges that when something like this happened, it's not just 1 or 2 people impacted. There are ripples, like relationships and family dynamics, and like other people are affected. So my mom and sister were in the room that day too, as people impacted. Yeah, like super powerful. My assailant was there with a friend, my lawyer, Kara, the cool prosecutor, and two mediators. And the mediators literally asked us one question, which was, what brought you here today? And we took 8 hours going around the circle answering that. And some people are like, that sounds horrible. Like 8 hours, that's awful. And I'm like, actually, I'm like, I needed it to be 8 hours.
Yes.
Like, I needed to get all that
Give it
shit
4
out.
days. Like, who cares? However much time. Yeah.
However long it takes. Yeah. So, I mean, like, it was way beyond my expectations. Like, it was like incredibly transformational. And of course, like, he'd been going to therapy leading up to that this whole time. So by the time we were there, like, he had language around consent and rape culture, and like, it was just so, it sounds weird to say successful, that feels like the wrong word, but just like it was. I was just like, holy shit, like this compared to my experience in court, like night and fucking day. Like, so it was incredibly healing. And like, yeah, he did, look at me and say, like, I'm sorry, I sexually assaulted you. There's nothing I can do to take it back. And I hope that being here today can help.
Oh my God. I have a question. In restorative justice, does the other person, they can say no, I'm assuming, or like, how does that work?
They can say no. They're also resourced, like people are there to support them in like why this might be a really good thing to do.
Okay. So there's like quite a bit of support that moves in for them in a sense.
Yeah, exactly.
When the option becomes something you want or whatever. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. So, but yeah, it has to be like consensual.
Yeah.
Or,
no, I don't want to. Oh, you're like, well,
yeah. Yeah, exactly. So we kind of like, I'm also a fiery woman. Like, we left the room that day and I was like, we need to be fucking loud about this, because as someone who's experienced both now, like court and this, like, I'm just like this is like caring. This is a caring process of justice. Like, I'm like, I feel cared for. Like, there was a snack table in that room. Like, so we left. I took a month to like digest, process all that. I mean, the processing lasted longer, but like I took a month, and then I was like, let's fucking go. And I like reached out to the media and I shared my story. It came out in like 6 articles on one day, like HuffPost, Forbes. So right away I got like hundreds, thousands of comments, like of all the varieties. Of course, there were like really shitty troll ones, which sucked.
Yeah.
But there was also really deep support, and the most like surprising or impactful thing to me was that there were so many survivors being like, I wish I knew about this, or I wish I had access to this. And that is what makes me keep sharing. It's just like, fuck, like we A, need and deserve to know about this, and B, we deserve access to it if we want it, and we deserve a version of justice that's like synonymous with healing, not in opposition to it. So that's kind of when I was just like, fucking A, my whole life is about this now. Like, that's when I launched my coaching business too. And I was like, let's get our like nervous systems calm. Let's feel fucking amazing in our bodies and powerful in our bodies, and like validate our desires so we can advocate for things like this and just like feel good in the world. And I've just been like sharing over and over and over again about this and advocating for it.
Oh, there's so many things happening for me right now. Is like, I'm so happy for you that like this was an option, and I'm going to get emotional because it's so twisted going through like the criminal, everything, like the case, like the legal system. It's so twisted. And I remember when I was like, everyone was like, get justice. And so I did the same thing. I Googled it many times. I had friends being like, let's call the cops. And it's like, okay. And then you get swept up into this whole thing that you're like, I don't want any of this. And it hurts. And then like, it's so awful. And like, I didn't know restorative justice was a thing. I still didn't until I heard about it, like from you. Like I heard about it, but I like literally was like, I don't even know what that is. Never an option. And, you know, at this point, I think I'm quite sensitive to, I need to sit with myself before I make any decisions. And I, at first, when I saw restorative justice and heard it from you and gained a little bit more, there was something that wanted to resist it. I wanted to resist restorative justice. Because you do get trained to say this person has to pay. And and as much as that became a part of my narrative, that was never me. That was never me. And like, I'm struggling right now, like right as I am. What does justice look like for me? And I don't know yet. And restorative justice, I'm going to be thinking about it. I think I'm just going through a lot right now to be able to implement that as well into my body. Cause I'm like, need to release a lot of things and sit with myself and nurture myself right where I am right now before I make more decisions. But I can't believe how, like, let me say this and then I'll go back to something, is I can't believe how beautiful this conversation is right now and how people listening in are going to hear about this because it is an option and your healing is a priority, and your voice and like the fact that you can say to someone, you hurt me maybe, or something, like whatever you need to say in a setting that's in the restorative setting, justice is like, you actually have that ability. Whereas in the law, you literally, and I'm sorry, I'm saying it wrong, but like in the legal system, don't be happy. Don't talk to anyone. You only talk to me, your detective, and your counselor for 5 years or something. And you're like, excuse me, how is that indicative? How is that promoting healing? How? I don't understand this. And it really does eat you alive. And so for myself and my journey is when I released this season, you know, we're recording it now. I haven't released it yet, but when it's released, it's like possibly anticipating some questions or, you know, voices about the decision to leave it. And I remember before I was getting out of this case, the civil case, I was like thinking about everyone else's conversations, and I had to stop myself and be like, this isn't about what people say. This isn't about how uncomfortable other people are. You know, I'm here to help and heal people. And also right now in this moment, like, what do I need? You know, and it's so interesting how for someone like myself, most people would say I'm very intuitive and I'm very in tune with myself and I speak my truth and wow, like I'm so inspired by you. And I go, yes. And also it's amazing how much this external world can really penetrate you, even when you are strong, even when you are intuitive, and it creates a lot. So it's like to be able to, holy cow, sit with yourself, tune into yourself, like honor yourself, is so special and so important. And I'm blown away by you because, what you did was so, I don't even have a word for it, powerful, beautiful, challenging, hard. Like I didn't live your story. And yet what I'm hearing and what I gather is just like, wow, from you, like truly. And I really do, like, I mean this, like, thank you, because even myself right now am hurting and I'm blown away by what's possible. These are good tears. It's like, I don't know what I'm going to step into, but thank you, because it's a hard, and like, you can't explain to most people how hard it is to go through this stuff. So like, wow, this is very special. 11 real.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I'm loving you so much. Like I think that you're so right that we're like trained to think a certain way. And that's even why I said like the prosecutor who was kind of, you know, taking a shit on my wants and needs and being like, this is not how it's done. I don't like blame her, because I'm just like, fuck, like we are like raised in this patriarchal world where there's this really strong binary of like good people, bad people punished, good people rewarded, like from birth. And so to ask of one another to drop that and to say, well, let's just focus on healing and like
yes.
not talk about that. Like that's a really big shift.
Yeah.
So
very rare, or maybe not, but like, it seems to be rare.
It's a really big shift. And I think that what benefits us is not saying, do I believe good people, bad people? Like not even focusing on that, but just exactly what you said of like, pause everything. What do I need?
Yes.
And then what's compatible with that?
Yes.
Because there are studies that show, and not just studies, but like my lived experience too, is like, what are the biggest needs for survivors? And often it's like to hear that person take accountability, to know that they won't do that again. To form a coherent narrative is one of them, like to be like, okay, why did this actually happen? Like what, like to make some sense of it. Those are shown to be like our biggest needs. And the punitive system, like incarceration court, where everyone's reading a script, like the person who caused harm is reading a script.
Yes, you're like, it isn't a script. What the heck?
It's a script. So it's just like, that's never going to meet those needs. So for me, it's like, I think a lot of people project onto me this idea of like saintly, like, I'm like literally a gay Jew, but like Christian values of like, like this kind of charitable.
That's so good.
It's like charitable, like people will project this like savior, like, oh my, like I went to save him. And it's like, fuck that. Like, that's not what this was. I just refuse to believe that we live in a world where everything's win-lose. And I'm just like, no, I'm going to focus on my own healing and go after what's healing to me. And often that just so happens to be healing for the other person as well.
Yes. It's so interesting. I feel like recently I've been going through, I think this releasing this case has brought up many triggers and many things from my past in terms of either sexual violations or manipulative behavior or gaslighting, like all of these sort of like patriarchal things that we all can possibly embody and not body. I'm not sure how to say that properly right now. And yet my biggest thing is like, there's so many people that want me to go like this again and like point fingers and be like, fuck you. And my goodness, can I do that? Yes. This gal can absolutely be like, fuck you. Like, oh my gosh. And also that's like, and then after I'm like, thank you for holding that space and for me to say, fuck you to your fucking face. Now let's figure this out. Let's talk. Like that is always this goal, this innate desire that I have with these sort of happenings and dealings that happen so frequently for so many people is like, the thing that latched on for my campaign was that I wanted to love this fucker. And like, I mean that out of the sweetness, hate. I mean that out of everything that I feel. I want to love this person somehow again. And that's what kind of got caught up in the media was like, this person's been hurt and she wants to love. And to me, to this day, I didn't figure out or understand or see how I could do that in a supportive way from external sources. And like when I reached out to someone, it would be that good, bad. It would be that you sue, or I'm using really bad terminology. I'm very emotional, but still like you seek justice in the ways that are set for you because that's what's there. And I feel the same way, like my lawyer is incredible and she's so cool. And she's like, the law sees you as a slut. Like, she's like, let's just be real. And she's like, and because my timeline isn't within 2 years, there's so many parameters for these things still, at least in Canada. She's like, you're not seen as valid. Your case is invalid. And so it's like no choice to walk away. I got lost in my thought of it here, but I just think I remember I've constantly since day one, I think it's even in one of my first episodes or in my first season of my podcast where I'm like, it's almost like, I don't want to do this. I just want to love. And I didn't know how, and there was no support. I'm using bad words. The support wasn't, I didn't know about it. It wasn't shown to me. It wasn't accessible. It was always there. It's just, that was something that was not a part of my healing journey. And I got to tell you, I think because of all of this like resistance, and my lawyer was like, Rebecca, you've been fucked over for like for 8 years. The very first second I reached out to the cops, they were like, there's nothing in our law. Sorry. And that hurt me in my case. And I lost my criminal case because of these things and a number of other things. But for me, it has built up, and I'm fiery as it is. It has built up a lot of rage, a lot of anger, a lot of hurt, a lot of pain, a lot of sadness. It's to me, what you're saying about the restorative justice and healing, like I'm feeling those other things right now. And I've had to survive. I have had to make myself pretend I'm happy for 8 years, or be like, be happy. Oh my God, be happy because you're going to die, and like, you're going to choose to die, or whatever is going to happen. Like, it literally feels like I'm going to, if I succumb to this, that's really what's happening for me, then I'll crumble, I'll fall. And I might just be like, I'm just going to die. Thank you so much. Like, and so it's so, I so desire in this moment to lift myself, hug myself into a more healing setting, like where I can actually be happy again with this. Like, this doesn't go away, I'm sure, I don't know if you feel the same way. This doesn't go away, and it's like, with this, I want to heal with this. And I don't know if I want to see his face. I'm so mad still because of all these things and whatever. But like, my goodness, to just be happy again with this is like all I've ever wanted. And I've been trying so hard. And when the universe brings something up over and over again, if you haven't really listened to the lesson, I'm like, what's my lesson? And maybe I'm honestly serious. Maybe this is a big gift today, in that, like, whoever is healing from their pain, you can do it in a healthy, uplifting, loving way. It doesn't mean that you negate the shit. It doesn't mean that you get rid of the pain, the hurt. It means you embrace it, you embody it, you live with it, you love it, and you heal everything together at once. And like, holy damn, my world has changed forever.
Oh my gosh. I am so here for you and this, and like the coexistence of all the feels. Like, I think that's another misconception about restorative justice, is that like it's all smiles and kumbaya, and it's like, no, there's space for the humanity. It's about reclaiming humanity and being like, that means we get to feel anger and sadness and joy and grace and hurt, like all the things, and I think that like words like restorative justice, the justice system, like can feel so big and complex, and just like simplifying it down to that question that you so beautifully said of like, what do I actually need? And like validating that enough to trust it, to ask for it, to advocate for it, to know that you have a right, that you're worthy of being supported in asking for it and receiving it. Like, I think that there's like a benefit to breaking that down. And this is why I'm just like, nervous system work, justice system work, it's not separate, because it comes down to people. And like, when we go to a judge and we say, this is what I want, and that judge is like, that's not how we do things. Like, that's their nervous system being in some real fight or flight, internalized patriarchy and misogyny mode. Like they're protecting
themselves in their situations, right? Like, and that's fair, valid, and yet like, okay, let's sit with this.
So I just think that we'll never like end violence by like living out the systems that created that violence. And I think that the most patriarchal, non-consensual, misogynistic, racist, sexist environment I can think of is court. And we're in court to dismantle misogyny and sexism and racism. And it's like, that's not, we got to toss in some new ingredients if we want a new flavor, like, so it's just like, I think that's what this is like, and that is a big part of what it was for me, is this realization, like, wow, I don't want to become or contribute to the thing that hurt me the most.
Exactly.
Like, I'm so hurt by dehumanization. And what does it actually do to me, to my well-being, to justify dehumanization of the person that hurt me? that actually hurts me.
Yes. Oh my God, sing it. This feels good. I have a logistical question, like actually pure question that I'm sure many people are asking in terms of restorative justice. And you have to hire a lawyer. So is it usually an expensive procedural ordeal to go through?
I'm going to be so real with you and say that there's literally no clear roadmap for restorative justice. Like,
right.
For a long, long time, Indigenous Jewish Mennonite communities have done this outside of the system.
Right.
Another like school of justice related is like transformative justice, rooted in Black and trans communities, also done outside of the system.
Okay.
So restorative transformative justice process is done outside of the system. There's a lot of like freedom, I guess, sovereignty to be like, who do we want to be involved? How do we want to do this? Like you have that, you're kind of in the driver's seat with that. And then like, if you're going through this system, if you're already in the system, or you want to like play a role in the justice system, getting its shit together too, which is like something that maybe I'll change my mind on someday, but I think I feel passionate about, is like, so, I mean, yeah, there's no clear blueprint for it. Like something my lawyer said is like, we're making this path as we walk it. But what we did was like, yeah, I got a lawyer to help me advocate for this. And then the lawyer basically like put the pieces together. There are plenty of restorative justice agencies. Like if you Google the town or city that you're in plus restorative justice, you will find an agency. And this is why this is another, like, I'm like, what's my role in this movement? And I'm like, I do feel like I can be a bridge between the public and those agencies, because something I've heard those organizations say is like, we're so busy with our programs, we don't have time to build a public profile. Therefore, the shame of that is that no survivor is like, oh my God, I just went through assault, I'm going to call my local restorative justice agency. Like, we just don't know about them. We need to like, be bridged in that way. So like, Google that. Google town plus restorative justice. Also, like, reach out to me, like if you feel like you want support in whether it's like healing in the space of your own sensual reclamation and like feeling safe in your body and in your relationships and things, like whether it's for that or you want support in like navigating the justice path. I certainly don't have all the answers, but like I have the space and some answers.
Hey, you're building the path, and like as we build these paths or step our steps, it's like things happen to support that, and more information comes. And so it's like, and you're in that movement right now. And so for myself and for anyone else that needs to or wants to reach out, it's like you can join in that as well. And someone's been doing the work so beautifully. Thank you. And along with many other amazing people too. So appreciate that. My goodness, it's like I look at the clock and I can't even believe it. So at the beginning, I was like, so we could maybe talk about this, and we touched on, many beautiful things. Definitely have like a whole nother list. Maybe we'll do another one another time. I'm
like, we're gonna like hang out and collaborate and probably do some like fired up change the world shit together. Like I have no doubt.
Oh, for that. Oh my gosh. Yes. So people watch out. Stay tuned for that to see how that comes together.
Yeah.
I think that, before we start to sort of wind things down is, if there's anything from today or, if you've listened or seen, I mean, you've been following me as well. Like if there's anything that you feel that you wish to share at all to the listeners, what would that potentially be? I mean, I'm sure there's a million, but
I think I'm really into simplifying things lately. I think that things can feel really complex, especially like on social media and in this like heated cultural climate, whatever. Like it can feel so heady and complex sometimes. So I guess just like an invitation of like, if you want to play around with like what is restorative justice, learning what it is. Like, I think the best way to learn anything is in your own body. And so like bringing these principles into your own body and being like, okay, when I'm an asshole to myself, instead of being like, I'm a piece of shit. And like, that's that internalized punitive system.
A big difference. And
interrupt it and be like, well, why am I saying that to myself?
Yes.
Like, what do I need right now? Like bringing in that restorative, compassionate language with yourself is so loving. And then it's like, I just think there's nothing better than learning things on an embodied level. Like, it's one thing to memorize a definition. It's another thing to like feel it in your bones. So instead of like jumping into the biggest things of like, if someone murdered everyone I love, would I do restorative justice? Like, that's where we tend to go. It's like, let's just like yellow light for a minute. Like, just like do like play around with those principles and practices for yourself. Welcome in that compassion instead of that punitive thinking for yourself, and see what that feels like.
Thank you. Yeah. I think to add to that is like, just validate what you're feeling, validate all the experiences, all the feelings, all the emotions, all of your perceptions. Just sit with them, validate them, embody them. And then that's where I feel like, that's where we can move forward, is when, in a way that's true to ourselves, in a way that can be healing, is when we are truly attuned and embodying all these things for ourselves. So thank you so much.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, thank you. Can I gift people who are listening like this little like free training that I have?
Yes,
like
please.
If people go to marleeliss.com/free training, you'll see a whole masterclass on like body love and really gorgeous ways to like feel safe and empowered in your body, and to like shift out of body shame and like performative pleasure and all this shit, and just like come back to yourself and be in loving relationship with yourself. So check it out. It's free. It's there. Also, like,
I'll drop a link.
Drop a link. I also always say, like, I'm a human. So if this impacted you, inspired you, like if you have a lot of questions, as a lot of people do, like my DMs are open. Marlee Liss on Instagram. You can message me, reach out.
You're the best. Thank you so much. And thank you for your bravery, honesty, everything, like, and the pain too. I don't want to disregard that. So thank you for being here with all of yourself, and for helping people and helping me.
No, thank you so much. Like, thank you for being so raw and real, and for creating space for these like really big and really controversial conversations. I think it's like really beautiful and loving, and I appreciate everyone for listening to this too. And I honor whatever feels you might feel and listening to this.
Yes. Amazing.